Right, welcome back everyone. I know it's been a while since we've done one of these, but in all honesty, there hasn't been too much going on. You can see that I'm pretty sure we covered some of this PA back here, and we've more or less been in a range since that, and I haven't taken really any trades that have been worthwhile to document other than today, right? So today I thought, you know what, let's just get back on the ball and get these videos back out. Today's going to be an interesting one as well. So without further ado, let's start on our daily time frame and have a look at what we were anticipating going into this week. So if I just do the usual batch work, put that into H4. All right, 4 hour, let's go into that daily. So going into the start of this week, we understood that we had these two arrays which had been left behind, right? We have in our discounted end of the dealing range, right? We have this bearish imbalance, and then in the premium end of this dealing range, we had this bearish imbalance. Now, ideally, we wanted to see price transact into this one before rolling over for the reasons that, or for the simple reason that this one was a discounted array. Not that it can't roll over from a discounted array, but that it just wasn't the highest probable scenario. So discounted array, and alongside that on DXY, you can see that we hadn't tapped into this array. So the imbalance that was on EU was here somewhere. You see that is closed on DXY, and there was no corresponding array on DXY. So we wanted to see price push slightly lower and then react. So taking it back to EU, we either wanted to see EU trade up in here before showing bearish intent that we could then trade away from, or we wanted to at least see DXY trade into its bullish imbalance. And in that scenario, EU could remain somewhere here without tapping into this and would be still happy to look for shorts. So on Monday and Tuesday, also let's go into Monday, when we was tapping into the array on Monday, I did not want to participate. If we go into the 4 hour, the reason I didn't want to participate on Monday was due to the fact that, number one, we run into this buy side liquidity level. Hold on, am I confusing this? Yeah, so Monday trades into that and we push higher, and this was Tuesday. So Tuesday, I'm just trying to remember what happens here. Okay, yep. Okay. So the main issue with trying to short here was the fact that we still have this 4 hour bullish imbalance propping price up. So we have bearish imbalance, which price is hanging in, and we knew that this could, you know, be some kind of area which could halt price, especially over here, but we didn't expect it to hold this well, right? So the reason I didn't want to go short anywhere here was the simple fact that we had the bullish imbalance propping price up. Now you see that going from Monday, so Monday takes us from, you know, this area of sell side liquidity back into the highs. We then start transacting around these highs. We fail to see any follow through. Notice how we don't get any body closes above the previous high, right? And then we start printing bearish arrays down here, this bearish imbalance, and we're kind of trapped within these arrays. So this is why I wasn't too fond of anything here, right? I participated in some longs, in all honesty, which were very nice. These ones here. So on this pullback, I managed to shoot this just into here, right? Which was nice to see. And that was on Tuesday. Monday, there was nothing, right? Monday, there was nothing to play. So that was fine. And then on Tuesday, like I said, I got involved in those longs. Wednesday, I got involved in nothing, right? So really and truly, I didn't like the fact that we were still, like I said, in the above this bullish imbalance. So you see that Wednesday comes along, right? And then your entry comes somewhere in here. We'll drop onto the lower time frame, but in fact we can drop into the lower time frame now, and we'll just put the higher time frame candles on. But the point I'm trying to make here, right, is on the daily, it wasn't too clear as to what way we could go, right? So Monday does this, right? We get this bullish candle after taking out sell side liquidity, bang. We get this bullish kind of injection that doesn't give us any follow through into this bearish imbalance. And what I wanted to see was, are we going to start displacing lower? And then with confirmation, I'll happily start to look for shorts. Or are we going to trade higher as we wanted to see price do into the premium end of the range and then push lower? So I didn't want to try and guesswork this. Make sense? So I just wanted to see a bit more confirmation, and that happened on Tuesday close. But we'll cover the play of Tuesday just for educational purposes. So we can see that on Tuesday, Wednesday, we open up and it's the simple Asia high play, right? We have this bearish imbalance, but notice how if I get the higher time frame candles up, if they want to show today, what on earth is this? I thought I was losing my mind. Here, you see that our bullish imbalance that we were speaking about, what am I? So I was thinking, how can I add more candles to this? So, no. There we go. So this is your bullish imbalance. Sorry about that, guys. This is your bullish imbalance on your H4, right? So bang, you see that there. And at this point, that's still holding. And we've induced the bearish bullish, it's not my day. We've induced the bearish imbalance, right? We close above it, and this one's still holding. So I didn't want to short into that, right? Even though we don't have any bullish H1 arrays, it just wasn't really my cup of tea, right? So you see, we very much hold that M15 distal line, H1 distal line on the bearish imbalance. Really not my day. We hold the M15 distal line. We hold the H1 distal line, and we get this injection wick, right? And this holds, and you see this push to the downside. But if you go onto your M15, you will see that we had quite an aggressive move, which was this. So ideally what we would have wanted to see, so we've got that H1 imbalance that we mentioned, refine that, and you get these two imbalance, and then you see that this becomes your market shift. So when price is pushing up, you can take this as your market shift, and you go shift, and people would have wanted to get involved in that, right? And if you got involved, you can see you would have got knacked on the body close there. Get involved, you would put your stop above this, you see you get knacked there, right? Price takes that out. So we didn't get involved in that, just simply because, again, that H4 perspective, right? You would have had to go, to even get involved in this, you would have had to go, you would have had to go M5. The only other thing I can see you doing is wait for price to, after having done this, push down again. Yeah, you would have had to go M5. Wait for some kind of closure below this, right? Confirm that we're going to move lower. Your stop has to go above that wick, and then ride it down. And there's just nothing there for me that I really wanted to play, right? We're not leaving much on the way down on M15. We get this M15 imbalance. got your Asia low. Right, and you see you tap that, you don't get much opportunity to get to Asia low, right? Your next possible trade was you get this bearish imbalance, sorry, bearish OB, price comes and taps into that. You get a very small imbalance in there, I think. Yeah, very small imbalance over there. And you could have taken shorts from here, right? That's your stop going above this high. If you wanted to be safer, maybe over here somewhere. But the chances of this flipping bullish on the day are very slim, especially when you've got this large imbalance beneath price, which can be induced. And we're not seeing any strong reactions from there. So you could have gone short. Right, you're seeing stuff like that. Imbalance again. But I didn't take any of these, right? My trade came today. So let's let this print out. So understand now, on our daily time frame and 4 hour, so Tuesday's close was here, right? You can see that the current range we're dealing within is this candle's high. Sorry. Is Monday candle's high and low. So the high of Monday to the low of Monday. That's the current range that price is stuck within. See how we wick the top end of Monday? We get this injection candle to the downside. The next day dumps through that and induces all of our bullish arrays. So if we go to 10 p.m. Or 9 p.m. now, close, you see we don't have any more bullish arrays in the way of this low, right? So this becomes our draw on liquidity. We've taken out the upper end of this range. We now can target the lower end. And we have now closed below the 50% of this range as well, right? And you can see how nicely price flips and taps into that and pushes lower today. So that was the reason why we started targeting these lows down here, right? We've now tapped the upper end. We've induced all bullish arrays. We're closing nicely to the downside. This becomes our draw on liquidity. Like I said, 4 hour didn't have any bullish arrays in the way. And we had printed a bearish array right here, right? Good, clean, understand, makes sense, nice. So coming into this morning, right, you see that it's around this time, your 5 a.m. candle open, 4 hour open, right? You're coming in and you've got your bearish imbalance and you're saying, cool, we don't have any arrays up here on H4. This is our only H4 array. We want to see price tap into that and roll over to the downside. Going into H1, you see you can refine that, even though it doesn't make it smaller, right? You're making it bigger. But yeah, you can look at it like this. Me personally, I had it marked out as the H1, like such. And you can see that we open up and we push into, we push into the imbalance, and look how body closes, right, below the midpoint on all three candles. Body close below, body close below, body close below. This is your kind of injection candle, right, which taps onto the distal line and closes below the previous candle's body close, right? So you see how we respect the midpoint of that imbalance, and we've got no bullish arrays on the H1 to prevent price from moving lower. You've got a very clear Asia low, and you've got your higher time frame draw on liquidity over here, right? Notice how now the difference between this play and this play, the reason I personally preferred this one was because the wind was in your back a bit more. The higher time frame direction was more in your favor, and this downside had been confirmed with the arrays and with, look, if I show you the H1, look how nicely the bearish delivery was displayed. We take out this high, we inject liquidity, we leave behind a bearish imbalance. Price taps into that bearish imbalance, respects it, continues bearish order flow, leaves behind another imbalance, leaves behind a bearish order block, and it respects all of them, right? Leaves behind bearish order blocks, push lower, leaves behind another bearish imbalance, right? Leaves behind another bearish imbalance. Did we get divergence on that? What candle was that? 3. Yep, so you see that this is that imbalance. We get divergence on that. So price did tap into it and respect it on DXY. So that got used. So that's that one there. And that array, so look, this injection creates an array. That array gets used to create a new array. That new array gets used to create a new array. That new array gets used, divergence, to create a new array. That new array is now what we're looking at to continue bearish delivery. That should be a aha moment for you. That should click. That should say, whoa, okay. You know, look how price delivery is continuously delivering lower and respecting bearish arrays while continuously disrespecting and inducing bullish arrays. Don't know why I highlighted that. But yeah, and here you don't have any arrays to even respect, but the last one we did have has been induced. So now we're looking at this and saying, cool, that's the most latest array. We want to see price push lower. So M15 comes along now. We're looking at M15 and let's just now do replay mode. So if we fade this, you know that that's the H1 imbalance. So price does this, bang, right? We take out Asia high, which is over here. We tap into the midpoint of the bearish imbalance. Right, we leave behind bullish imbalance, and then I'm sure we pushed lower on this next candle. Yeah, the only thing we're looking at now is that we've got this bullish imbalance in the way. So we do that, and now here I started looking to go short, right? Because we've tapped into the midpoint. I'm sure we left behind an M15 bearish imbalance here, right? So we've got a bearish imbalance on the H1. We've now left behind M15 bearish intent, but we don't have a market shift, which is, you know, kind of the setback here and why I shouldn't have taken this. There was no confirmation. It was only half risk, so it's okay, right? It happens. That is your real shift, and you see we don't get in that. I end up taking the trade from this bearish imbalance. Stop going above here. And I was targeting these lows, and you can see that if I continue that, we get stopped out. Now, this happens. So you see we tap into the distal line, and the invalidation point is extremely clear. If we start trading back above this, we're going to induce this bearish imbalance, and I'm wrong. So I was very much in the thought process of, cool, we're failing to close above this previous high and we're injecting liquidity now to the downside, right? Look, notice how there's no body close above this level. Buyers are struggling to keep price above that high. So I was on M5 and I said, okay, cool. Well, we're failing to close above that on M15. Look at the momentum that has kicked in, right? As this was happening, this candle, and as this started to break down, and this is your M5 shift. And I said, you know what, I'm going to shoot this just because, again, my invalidation point is extremely clear that if we now fail to push lower from here and we transact back above this, we're going to be above the distal line, right? And on DXY, we have the volume imbalance, which got fully rebalanced. You see that there to the T. So if I go to the H1, you'll see it a bit better. Right, so we create this volume imbalance from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. And you see we come back, close that fully. And then that was just kind of extra confluence for me to say, okay, cool, we have no more reason to go to the downside. We've already tapped this array over here. This array was used to push price higher. We now have volume imbalance, normal imbalance on DXY, on Euro USD. If we don't drop from here, then I'm wrong on the day, right? So that was that. So I got my shorts in on the M5 shift. So as price was dropping there, put my stop loss above this high. Right, targeting Asia low with the potential of extending the TP and going to Monday's lows. So that's what I was looking at there. And you can see very nicely this ended up tumbling to the downside. Right, we get all of this. Now I was looking for a scale in here, but price didn't come to my target. I didn't manage to get any of my position off. So because I didn't have any profits banked, I didn't want to scale in and turn the day into a potential losing day. So I stayed out of that one until price then ended up slamming to the downside. There was obviously trade potentials there. You have bearish imbalance right here. Right, again, your bearish imbalances are creating more bearish imbalances. Price taps the midpoint, breaks down. I finally get some profit off the table. So I closed 60% of the position here. And then I was just looking for the delivery over here and notice how we start getting imbalances to the downside again. I thought, cool, I'm happy to extend this TP. We're getting further downside intent. And now that I've taken off 60% of the position, I'm happy to scale in the rest of my position, or scale in to more positions. So this high came from an array. We break previous lows. So that becomes isolated / protected. This high here, right? And now I'm saying, cool, what arrays do we have that we can potentially trade away from? Volume band, overlapped or stacked with an imbalance. Right, and obviously you have your BPR up here, but just due to the momentum that was stepping into the market, I thought I'm going to shoot this at the more local levels. Right, so you can see this falls just below our 61.8, which I was cool with, and I'm getting in at the midpoint there. My stop went above this high and I was targeting these lows. And if we play price, you see we go tap into that, we start to break down, and at this point I took off 25% of the position. So DXY had divergence with EU. I took 25% of the position there. We print, you see that we slowly, ever so slowly start doing this. And then as EU was coming down here, DXY had tapped that final target. Right, you can see that this was over here, and this must have been around here, right? So I think it was at 3 p.m. Yeah, 3 p.m. on EU is there. Yeah, so in this candle, when we started breaching this low, that is when I closed out that position, the whole thing. I'm not going to sit here and try and beg the market for what? 5 pips. Yeah, when DXY has already taken that level, there's no point of doing that. So I just closed the trade for the day, currently up around 1.8% for the month on my personal accounts, the track record account, done a bit more on the funded accounts. So yeah, so far so good, man. So far so good. I'm quite content with the results for the year. Very good. Very good. See, look, I know there's people that are still holding this now. Like, just for an extra 5 pips, is it worth it? If DXY has already taken that, if it hadn't happened, I get that. But DXY has taken this. There's just no point. Just no point. But anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope it was a clear and concise explanation. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.